Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's video and audio guest was born and raised in Northeast Ohio, but has been living in Tampa, Florida for 8 years now. She works as a weight loss specialist for Matrix Hormones and also offers coaching to lifestyle clients. She has been competing since 2017 and did 3 national qualifying shows where she placed top 5 in each one before taking a year off in 2018 to resolve hormonal issues before hitting the stage again in 2019, where she ended up getting last callouts at her next national show and third callouts the following year at nationals, and was invited to be a Blackstone Labs athlete there, which is amazing. And she took all of 2021 off to grow personally and professionally outside of competing before hiring a new coach in 2021 with the intention of going pro in 2022, which she accomplished after 2 regional shows and 2 national shows with first callouts right before she won her pro card at the 2022 National Championships. Welcome to the show, Casey Hill. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so happy you're here. And like I told you, I have so much I want to chat with you about. But before we get into everything, is there anything you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage?
I knew you were going to ask this because I'm a huge fan of your show and I watched and listened to almost every episode.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
so I was like thinking about this like all day. Like, what do I do? I was like, you know what? I'm just so in the zone. Prejudging, I'm just, laying down and chilling. If I know people at the show, they're kind of just with me chilling backstage. And then when they line us up, I'm just like, all right. I text my family. I'm like, hey, they're lining us up. Like, get ready, because they're all
Yeah.
watching back at home, like cheering me on and supporting me if they can't be at the show. And then I get in line and I just, pray. I say, thank you, God, for, getting me to this point, allowing me to do what I love. And then I just tell myself that I'm a boss ass bitch. And I just, hype myself up right then and there and know that everything that I did brought me to that moment and I worked my butt off. And then I just walk out there with the most confidence and do my thing.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Like, first of all, I think it's cool that you just shared the fact that you'll text your family, because that often gets left out in the podcast. But I think a majority of us are backstage like, okay, this is the class that's on right now. And so I'm probably on in like 30 minutes, or, make sure you're ready to take a video. I'm walking across. Like, we are usually doing that. It's not all just reflection time, but I think it's really cool that you also take the time to celebrate your journey and thank God right before you go up there.
Yeah, that's, the gratitude. And I think I learned that the most when I was going through my hormonal stuff back in 2018, is like, I am healthy now. Like, I got to come back and do this. And I really appreciate when I am healthy. And I don't take that for granted ever again, like ever.
I bet, especially like going through that, maybe not expecting that to happen. So walk us through, like, because you had a successful start to your competition journey and then you found out about the hormonal issues. So what was going on that you noticed, and then what had to be done to work through it?
Yeah. So I had my first like real competition coach, and he pushed me really hard, which is, that's what I paid him for. I don't blame him for any of it. And I don't know if I had thyroid issues beforehand or not, because I never got blood work done before. That was just something I never even thought of. And then, I got a new coach because he was a good friend of a friend of mine. And he was trusted here in the Tampa community. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, I'm ready to prep for again. Like, I want to see, what I can do this year. Like, took some time off to grow. I want to do this again. And he's like, all right, let's go. So the weight just wasn't dropping. Nothing was happening. It got to a point where we're like, okay, let's drop all carbs, let's drop all fats, let's be drastic with this and see what happens. Um, and I remember doing that and my weight stayed the exact same. And he's like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
yeah. He's like, all right, there's something going on now. So we really need to go get blood work done. And luckily at the time, that's when I ran into my endocrinologist, Ken, and with matrix hormones. And we did labs and we found out my thyroid was shot, my testosterone was low. And there were some other little things too, but I can't really remember. I think like my FSH and LH levels were a little bit of a mess. And I was like premenopausal. So we had to take a big step back and we had to get all that in order to be able to, be able to prep properly and not struggle and suffer and really run my body to the ground even worse. So it just took a matter of time of more blood work and trying to be patient and gaining weight. And it was the hardest thing, I think, one of the hardest things I've ever had to overcome.
Absolutely. I think the difficulty is not just accepting that, something needs to be fixed about your body and how it's functioning. It's also the unpredictability of what comes with fixing it and the unpredictability of if it will be fixable, if you want to say that.
Yeah, and it was just like I just remember there would be like nights that I would just cry and mornings I would just wake up and send check-ins and then after I would just cry and it was just so hard and I think the one thing that kept me going and just kept going was like I have to fix this. Like I'm just like someone who's so determined that like when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And that's just was my mindset and it's just like once I get this next round of blood work, will it say I'm okay? Can I start prep then? Is the thyroid medication working? Is it not working? Okay, let's make the changes. What do I need to do now? And so it was just one thing after, like one check, one box, another check mark, figuring it out, getting those levels back to regulation, to where they were not just working normally, but working efficiently to where they were working efficiently for my body and me to feel good.
Yeah, like you wanted to get to a place where it wasn't just resolved, but it was optimal for you and you were able to be your best as an athlete and see what you were capable of. Now, you did mention you met, I forgot what you said his name was, your endocrinologist, Ken?
Ken.
Ken.
Mhm.
So you met Ken. Is that what inspired you to start working for them as well, like your own journey?
Yeah, it did really. My own journey and learning, like doing my own research on hormones and thyroid medication and your levels. I'm sorry, like 1 second.
We love a guest visitor.
It's my dog. Okay, so I took his collar off. Um, so I did a lot of my own research along the way because I'm like, well, what does this mean? Like, what does this have to do with this? Why does this do this? And luckily, like my coach at the time, he went to school. He was a pre-med school as well. So he was able to answer a lot of my questions and give me guidance too. So I had him and my doctor, Ken. And then Ken had approached me one day around, and it was probably in 2019. He said, hey, I have a spot open. I'd really like you, to work with me if you can. Like this is when the company just started kind of taking off a little bit and they needed some more help. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Um, so that's when I got involved with them as an employee. But then I had left them after it was, I want to say it was in 2020,
Mhm.
because I just needed something more financially stable. And so then I left them, worked somewhere else, and then left that job, worked somewhere else. And then just recently, a couple months ago, they gave me a call. Ken called me and said, hey, um, I have this huge opportunity. You're the only person I trust to do it. And I want you to run with it. He's like, I I talk to my partners, and when I'm telling them what I want this position to be and what I want it to look like, you're the only person that I trust. And that was a huge honor. And I was like, okay, like let's do it. And so he trusted me, and that's all I needed to know, that he was going to trust me to do the job, and having that respect from someone is huge.
Absolutely, especially someone who has seen a lot of your journey and seen what you've been through and knew the decisions you had to make as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, he's just been someone that's always been in my corner, and I trust him more than anything.
What does your work look like within the company?
So right now I am the weight loss specialist. I'm a trainer to the specialist and the onboarding staff. So what I specialize in is I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it. It's called semaglutide and tirzepatide. It's a huge obesity weight loss drug that started out as diabetes medication. And I talk to our patients about it, and what they need to do to be successful on the drug, and how to go about their dosaging. And then I also speak to our staff about how they can talk to patients about the medication, and just making sure that they know the ins and outs, and making sure they're educated and selling it properly to our patients, and any other medication that could go with that medication to help really boost the benefits of it.
That's awesome. So it sounds like the work you do is educational as well as helpful to the clients and customers. What did you have to do or maybe learn in order to master that and be in a position to offer that?
So I did some trainings. I trained with Ken himself, and then I spoke to a lot of the staff just to kind of see what their knowledge was at. I worked with another manager of mine, and she really helped me understand the process and how things work. And then I just really had to dig deep into my own research. I would Google things, articles, kind of like a lot of the questions that they were getting was, how do we, like, what are these patients supposed to be eating? And so I did a lot of research on patients that were having success on the diets, and what diets were best for that patient and stuff like that. So we found that high protein, moderate carb, low fat diet, I was like, oh, this is what I do. This is easy. I could talk about this all day to anybody.
Yeah.
So just doing a lot of my own research and making sure I'm reading knowledgeable sources and stuff like that to be able to be confident in what I'm acknowledging the staff about and our patients.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I think it's kind of like a good example of what's meant to be for you will be for you. So even though you left, like it came back into your life and you came back into that. So it must be rewarding for you to have gone back and done it. So what is like the most rewarding part of that work?
I would say the most rewarding part is knowing that I am a step to someone finding their happiness, not just inside themselves, but on the outside as well. Because, as athletes and as competitors, we have such gratification when we check in with our coach and the scales dropped. And knowing that I'm the first step to someone having that outside confidence is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have an understanding, like you said, this is something you do and you've also been through it. And you mentioned earlier, like the weight gain through hormonal recovery was difficult. So, what did you have to maybe sacrifice physically and mentally in order to get the health that you had to have to be successful the way you have been?
Um, Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, that's a bit of a, let me see if there's a better way I can communicate like what I'm thinking. Like, you know how sometimes you're gonna have to like you have to gain weight sometimes to gain health, or you have to get to a new set point in order to get to a place that's going to be better for you, or you have to sacrifice like the weight, like leanness for building or leanness for health. So what were some things that were maybe difficult for you to let go of, but ultimately were pivotal in your healing and ultimately your success as an athlete?
Oh yeah, the weight gain all the time, even to this day, is the hardest part. I struggle with body image issues now still, and but I know now it's not because of my hormones, it's because, I'm growing to be a pro athlete and be competitive as a pro athlete. So I would say that's the hardest thing for me still to this day.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on like being an enhanced athlete and how that affects hormones and maybe the difference between someone who's enhanced versus not and what kind of considerations they need to have.
Yeah, so I would say um I would say it's probably a lot harder for athletes from my perspective, from what I've noticed, and I've compared myself as an enhanced athlete to other athletes that I know that are not, is that I think when we're enhanced, we get that really hard look. And then once we're coming off of those enhancements, it's more mentally challenging because we get to a point where it's like, oh my gosh, like I achieved this, but now I feel like I'm stepping backwards. But it's and then for the non-enhanced athletes, it's like they gradually, I feel like they're reverse and come and like, pulling back of not being so lean is not as drastic because it's more natural, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Like from a psychological perspective too, like your mind almost needs time to catch up to the physical changes that are happening, no matter if you're enhanced or not post
Mm-hmm.
show, because you are gaining back a healthy body fat or you're restoring your body in some way. But of course, the use of any enhancement, if it enhances your look, it's also going to make you feel not maybe as great when you look more natural or normal.
Right. Because when you're going to the gym and you're enhanced, you get you see your veins and the striations so much easier. And, the harder looks just there and it's there for so long that when it's gone and it disappears, it's like, oh my gosh, I, I look terrible. Like, who is this? But then and realistically, it's like, no, you look amazing still. It's just that you're not used to this look. And compared to, I was talking to someone about this the other day, like someone who's never competed before or can look at me right now and be like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. But me, I'm like, no, like I am deep off season. I look like I, need to be in sweatshirts and a big t-shirt all day, every day. Like, don't look at me. And then they're like, no, like you're incredible. And they would die to look the way I look right now. And I don't want to look the way I look right now.
Yeah, totally. So you found that like personally and other people you know who are enhanced have struggled with the body image side of things because it's an adjustment to see yourself go from hard and defined and so much like definition and density to then
Mhm.
looking more not no it's still not normal, but just less like that could
Softer.
be yeah, softer.
Yeah, I know from my personal experience, yes, it's hard. Because I like to look my best all the time. That's just the pressure I put on myself.
Yeah.
Um, but and then when I look at some of my friends who aren't enhanced and I see that they're still lean in their off season, they look amazing. And I'm like, darn it, like why can't I look like that in my off season? Sometimes I do correlate the fact that, maybe it's because I was an enhanced athlete during my season and they aren't.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective too, because I'm natural. And when I see people who aren't, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they look so dense and hard and defined. It's like three-dimensional. And
Mhm.
even in their improvement season, like that's how they look to me. It's obviously different on stage, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just a different look. And
Mhm.
I never thought that an enhanced athlete might look at someone who's natural and be like, oh, I would like to also look maybe more like that versus that extreme discrepancy between the looks is maybe bigger for someone who's enhanced.
Yeah, yeah, I that's something definitely to look into. And that's just my perspective on that. Because I do know I do have friends who are not enhanced and I love their look in off season compared to mine, but it could just be because it's just my body, my body just likes to be heavier too. So it could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, same. I tend to sit heavier in my improvement season as well and have to do all the cardio and all the cutting.
Yes.
But it's
Same.
yeah, see, like it's also nice to hear from athletes who get that too, because like people who are super lean, they maybe struggle with gaining the mass or having the merves, like the muscle and the curves. But like for people like us, like we maybe struggle more so with getting that hard, defined look.
See, I don't know because it's weird because I know I put on muscle really easily, and I don't know if that's because, my body gain is I'm an easy gainer. But when I get shredded, I'm shredded. Like when my
You were
body knows.
so your show. I was looking at your pictures and I was like, "Who is this girl? She is so shredded." I mean, you're even lean in the photos you post recently. I mean, you still look freaking phenomenal. But yeah, like when you're
Yeah.
on stage, you're shredded.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to fill out. Like when I was going to nationals, Ashlyn, we were doing like burgers before the night before. But going into nationals where I won my pro card, we did things a little different and we just did clean like food. I was eating like 400 grams of carbs, I think the night before nationals, because they kept telling me come in fuller. Your glutes are flat. Bring in your glutes need to come in fuller. So we were like, all right, she was just like, I just have this feeling that we just need to do it this way. And I was like, okay, like I trust you. And so we did, and it paid off.
That's so awesome. Let's actually talk about you hiring Ashlyn because you hired her in 2021. That was in the improvement season prior to your 2022 season. Is that correct? Or did you guys just start a prep straight away?
Correct. So I hired her so I went to Hawaii in September of 2021. And then when I came back, that's when I started coaching with her. So that was September, and then we started my prep like right after Christmas for 2022.
That's awesome. How did the approach with her compare to previous experiences?
So my previous experiences, my coach before didn't do my training really. And then Ash did all of my training, which I love because then it takes a lot of the thinking out of everything. But also she did macros for me. And then luckily I knew how to eat on a meal plan before. So I know that like what food is best to eat prior to training, what meal food is best to eat post training. I know what my body responds well to. So it wasn't a huge adjustment to doing that because I just still ate what I knew what worked best for me. But it was just like I had to put in the numbers every day, which was a little bit of adjustment, especially when you go to carb cycling and you're like, oh, what was this that I had that day?
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, I have to pay close attention to the numbers today because they're higher or they're lower today. So that would be the biggest difference. But I did come to her with the knowledge that I needed to make sure that, the foods I wasn't eating like, I don't know, crackers, before training or like in the middle of the afternoon and tracking that as something. So
Yeah. So when you guys started your work together, you're doing like mini improvement before your prep. What was the feedback you were working on with her and how did you work to fulfill that before hitting your prep season?
um my feedback from nationals in 2020, it was that I just needed more time. I just needed the muscle maturity and I just needed more muscle all around. So that's what I was already working on. And then we just, kept trying to work on that as well. And also I had gained more weight than I like. And, I didn't like that. Obviously, I do not like off season. Um, and so it was trying to find that balance of where I was still trying to improve, but not put on more weight. And so we were trying to cut a little bit before we started prep. So it was kind of like a mini prep, I guess you could say. But we still wanted to enjoy, like, I still wanted to enjoy Thanksgiving and little moments too. throughout the years. So we tried to find that balance. And then when it was go time, it was go time. It was cut all the junk out, cut all the, the little snacks and stuff out. So that's just how it went.
Have you ever been told that you can't heal your relationship with food unless you stop competing? Or do you feel like a lost cause because every time you've tried to heal your relationship with food, you're always met with the same challenges, judgment, shame, and guilt? But you're ready to get to that root of your relationship with food and really understand your habits and behaviors and make lasting changes that are going to drive you forward in your competition goals as well as your life. And of course, if you don't want to stop competing in this sport that you love, but you also don't want to continue down the rabbit hole that is setting you back in your life, emotions, and potential for success on stage, I want you to know that you can get through this. And no, you do not have to stop competing in order to do so. You truly deserve to have successful preps, productive improvement seasons, and peace of mind year round. Because when your head is full of thoughts of food, eating, or guilt, you cannot invest that energy into the goals you truly care about, which is a big reason why I launched the 5-week food relationship program and why it has been my most highly demanded program to help competitors like yourself make peace with food so they can pursue the sport they love for the long run without having to worry about sacrificing their mental health. If you want to learn more about this program and hear from others who have done it, then visit www.celestial.fit/foodfreedom. Scroll through that page, get some information, and if you're inspired and you are ready to take action on this, go ahead and apply to work with me, and I will be getting back to you within 24 to 48 hours to go over your application and discuss your concerns specifically to determine if and how I can support you. Again, that is at www.celestial.fit/foodfreedom. Yeah, so sounds like you found like a good flexible approach and then you went full force into prep and the goal was to put on more size. When did you feel confident that you had achieved the muscle mass? Because I know personally, like in an improvement season, I'm looking at my body and I'm like, I know I've gained muscle, my strength numbers are going up, but every year, you're told you got to grow. And then you're like, well, how do I know I got there? So was there a moment for you where you're like, I think I've built enough, like I think I'm ready?
I think the moment is when I get down to a certain weight and I can see the physical changes. It's not in my off season because I can't really see in the off season because I do put that layer on. But when I am in prep and I get down to like 120, when I'm 125, like my comfortable weight where I like to be, that's when I see, okay, the shape's there. Like I did it. Like I know that what I'm gonna bring is gonna be improved.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can relate to that. Like I was just talking to my coach today about how us doing like a mini cut with the gut protocol I have to do is going to be great because we'll get to a number that's lower and able to kind of show us what progress we've made as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely understand that. And then going to your earlier point about body image, remember in one of your posts, you were talking about how important it is for you to like overcome the negative thoughts and focus on other things so you can be kind to yourself and also so you have other areas of life that you're prioritizing. So what have you been doing for yourself this improvement season that's helping you and what other things have you focused on?
I would say this improvement season, I have been focusing on, my career. I did just start this new position with Matrix, a couple months ago, and that was a huge blessing. And just like diving into the knowledge of all of that, a lot of self-reflection has happened this past year. In 2022, during my competition season, um, my ex-fiance broke off our engagement. And that was hard. That was really, really hard. So I had to take a huge step back. Not just like the stage got me through last year. Prepping got me through that. And then this year I had to really take a look on the inside, be like, why did this happen? Why was I not good enough? And why could I not give him what he deserved out of a relationship to where we couldn't, do what I pictured us to be like? And so that's what I had to take a step back and look at, this year in my off season and really be like, okay, the reason why it didn't work out wasn't just because of you. Um, it wasn't all my fault. And I had to realize that.
Absolutely. That's a very challenging thing to go through because you had your whole life planned with this person and then it's pulled out from under you. And it doesn't sound like you saw it coming.
No, I did not see it coming. The wedding was booked, everything was pretty much paid for. The date was set, and one day he just sat down and was just like, I'm not happy, and I don't think I can make you happy anymore. And it just, my whole world was rocked, to say the least. I thought it was a joke. I literally thought it was a joke. And I just I had to leave. It was peak week of my second show this season.
Wow.
Um, I packed up my big suitcase. I packed up my show day bag the next day or that night, and I Ashlyn and I are really close. I called her and she's like, "Go to my place. Go to my place in Fort Lauderdale. You could stay there." And I was like, "Okay." I would be lost without my friends, my close group of friends. Um, I wouldn't have known what to do without them. I leaned on them so much last year. I was, staying in different places. I was living out of my suitcase so that was May, June, July, for 3 months
Wow.
while prepping.
Oh, that's really intense to go through that. And then you were 1 week out from, or you were peak week. You find this
Mhm.
out, you think it's a joke. You're sitting there with him and you're hearing this. Was there like like, did you feel like, okay, I want to fight for this and you tried to, or was he like adamant, like, no, it's over?
I tried. I, of course, I was in disbelief when it happened, like right in that moment. I kind of like separated myself and, I did what I had to do to give him the space. And we talked and he was just like, no, like he was happy with his decision. Like, but I told him, I was like, I would do anything to make this work. You're my person, or at least I think you're my person. We're engaged. Um, we're supposed to be getting married, um, and it's just like, I, he was my best friend. And to find out that one day, like, I wasn't making him happy and he didn't know how to make me happy, it just was it crushed me. It really did. And the only thing I knew what to do was to give him his space. And then we kind of came back, we talked things a little bit, and I told him I'd go to therapy. Like, I told him I'd do whatever it took. Like, I would work on things. I would even stop competing, like, because if that was the issue, which I know was probably a little bit of the issue because he used to compete and he fell out of love with it, and that's understandable. And I was like, I would stop competing because that's how much you mean to me.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, like, I think I made the right decision. And so from then it was it.
Wow, that's really heartbreaking. Like I can't even imagine how that feels even today. Like you're in this position where you're no longer in prep or have a show on this, I don't know, maybe you have a show on the schedule, but you're not in prep mode. So that was like something you had to look forward to. And then I imagine coming out of season knowing that it was probably like everything hitting you even more.
Yeah, because as an athlete or as a competitor, we kind of put a lot of things in the back burner,
Yeah.
and we put that show and everything on the line for that show and that first place and that overall, and to reach our goals. And so when that second show happened, I had a great support system there, and if it wasn't for them being there, I would have felt so lost. But I just remember coming off stage after prejudging, and I was dead center prejudging,
Yeah.
and I just remember walking off stage and all I could think of was how I wish he was there and he wasn't there. And I didn't tell my family. My family had no idea what was going
Okay.
on.
Wow.
And so, of course, they were blowing up his phone because he told me afterwards. And then my mom called me and she goes, or something came up about him, and he told her that he wasn't there and what happened. And I just remember holding back tears so hard with her on the phone because it was just prejudging. Couldn't mess up my makeup
Yeah,
still, you
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
um, and so she just related me like, how proud of me she was, and she knew something was wrong because I had been so distant from her all week. And so she, she's a mom, she knows.
Mhm.
But it was just hard because I had visualized those top moments with him being there and he wasn't. And I think that was probably one of the hardest things.
That's incredibly difficult. Like, I imagine the types of visualization you were doing just to get there and motivating you to get there was him being present, and for him to not be there and then also to take you by surprise in that way. And then for you to even be willing to give up competing, but that not being the main problem, like that puts, or at least I would think it might put other doubts in your head about yourself and who you are and why someone you were with for like almost 5 years would do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it came back to I was like, okay, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was like, I remember being in this moment and realize and thinking to myself, how can I say this? What is it inside of me that I need to improve and show up so I can, the next guy that I want to be with or wants to be with me, I don't make the same mistake. How did I fall into this pattern with this person to where like we just kind of fell out of love and we weren't with each other anymore? Um, and was everything that I gave to that relationship, did it make me not who I am anymore? Did I just like lose myself into him? And I realized, no, I'm still the same person I am today that I was then. So I was, instead of, I had like all this self doubt that it was me, that I lost myself in who I was as a person. But realistically, it was just, I don't think I was what he thought I or what he thought he needed from a wife. And when he realized that, then he was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. So
That's very tough, but what a powerful realization for you to have come to through reflection. Like, even having to look at those parts of yourself and the relationship and think about it, it shows like your commitment to growth. And this might be a tough or too much question, but like, is it affecting how you're viewing men and dating moving forward?
oh yeah, 110%. I am so guarded. Um, it is it's taken me over a year, to really realize, okay, I think I'm ready, to find a relationship again. Like, yeah, I've been on dates. Yeah, I've been, around guys and you know, I've gone out.
Yeah.
um, but I haven't found that person yet. You know what I mean? And I think it's because I haven't allowed myself to. And I've come to this realization recently, like I'm ready to allow someone into my life as long as they're the right person and can understand that I'm, I do come with some baggage and you are going to have to prove to yourself to me that not only that you can see the positives that I can bring into your life, but also you have to see that you can bring positives into mine as well, if that makes sense. You know?
Absolutely. Yes, it makes perfect sense. And this is not the same at all. So I don't want you to think I'm comparing, but like I came out of a 7 year relationship and it ended in a way that I didn't think it would end. And
Hmm.
um I remember feeling I was different. Like I wasn't the woman I wanted to be in a relationship either. So it was like for the better that everything happened as it did. But when you think about, all that time you've been with someone, all that you've given, and then it's taken away from you, or you're
Mhm.
not good enough for them, or they thought you were, or anything like that, or opposite is true, it's very painful to open yourself back up again. And I remember I kept telling myself, I'm like, if you thought love was worth it before, it can still be worth it now, even though it's hard. And I've since met my amazing boyfriend, and that's been so beautiful and faster than I expected. But like, because of that reflection, because of thinking, like, I was able to come into this relationship like maybe more compassionate and more, even though guarded at times, even still, it was like I needed to go through that in some ways to learn more of what I really needed and wanted from a partner too.
Yes, exactly. I 110% agree with that. And that's something as well that I'm taking away from that relationship is like I have learned so much what I do need from a partner and what I need to do as a partner myself to make that relationship work.
Yes, the what, like, what responsibility do I need to take to foster that type of connection and relationship? It's like that's a question we don't always want to answer, but it's so important because it does take two. And when we recognize how we maybe messed up in the past, we don't
Hmm.
want to admit it, but we then grow. And if we have compassion with ourselves, we can extend that to others. And two people's baggage isn't as heavy, when we're both carrying it.
Yeah, right. Then it balances each other out.
Yeah, exactly.
So funny.
Yeah. So I think it's great that, like, you've had so much personal growth from this, and you achieved, like, what is so amazing is you achieved a goal of yours that you have had since I imagine you set up the goal to be an IFBB pro fairly quickly, since you went to the national circuit fairly quickly, like to be a pro, and you accomplished it even through that. And how gratifying was that for you, if at all? Maybe it wasn't in that moment or hit you later, but how gratifying is it now? Like, you look at it to know you still showed up and achieved that goal.
I I don't even know if it still hits me. Because I I was talking to a friend before our podcast like last week, and I was like, I don't know what she's gonna ask me. Like, I didn't do anything wild or crazy. And she goes, Casey, what you overcame last year is huge.
Yes.
Like, you should be so proud of that. Like, you achieved your goal going through so much. And I was like, thank you. Like, so it's still like, I don't know. I still look back and I'm like, I don't know if I like still can believe it sometimes. And then I remember, um, I think it was Ashlyn came up to me and after I had walked off stage and came back out to see everybody after I won my pro card, and she was like, "You did this yourself. Like this is all you." And that's when I didn't really cry, but then it was like a moment of relief, like I did it. Like, yes.
Absolutely. Like, you came to that realization, like, it hits you, like, okay, maybe it's not fully sunk in that you're an IFBB pro, but
Mhm.
it sunk in that moment that you won despite everything you went through.
Yeah, exactly. And then one of my good friends too, Jen Saluski, she's also my roommate. She made a post too because she's been there for me through my whole nationals prep, and the video that she posted of me coming out and her hugging me and like the caption that really hit hard because it was just like you overcame so much and you've proven not to just yourself but to all women that you know just keep going, keep your head up, stay strong, and you still will no matter what achieve, no matter what your goal. So
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. Like you said earlier, like, your friendships and connections really, really came through for you in that
mhm.
moment, like it, or in that entire experience. And I think that that's a testament to who you are as well, to have maintained and fostered those types of friendships, and people being there for you, believing in you. And I'm thinking back on your journey, through different national shows, when you cracked the top call outs in, I don't remember which show it was, but you cracked the top call outs. Was that a moment where you felt like the dream was becoming more possible for you?
Yeah, 110%. I remember, you know, talking to my ex-fiance before and being like, if I don't get that top call, like it's not meant to be. Like I'll probably be done, you know. And then when it happened at Junior Nationals in 2022, I was like, I am meant to be here. I'm
Mm.
not stopping. I got off that stage and it was, I could have been fifth, I could have been sixth. I ended up taking sixth. After finals, Ash was like, "We're going to Universe." I was like, "Let's go."
Yes.
So yeah. And the relationships that I made to last year are amazing. One of my good friends who I was going actually almost kind of through the same thing as I was, and she was prepping as well. And so she's still one of my good friends to one of these this day. And her, like, just the support system that I received is just, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
Yeah, it's seriously amazing. Like the power of friendship and the power of support. This is not a selfish sport and it's not an individual sport.
Not at all. Mm-mm. I can 110% tell you if it wasn't for my circle of friends, my mom and my family, I would be lost. I wouldn't I would lose myself, you know what I mean? It's just if you don't have that support system behind you and cheering for you and telling you no, you can do this, you wouldn't be able to get through the day.
So true. Like that's why I think it's so valuable to uphold and support that support system, even when you're going through it. Like even when you're in the depths of
Hmm.
prep or you're struggling, it's not a time to isolate and shut out. Like your friends and family still need you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know that's something that I've learned being around other IFBB pros who are Olympians is, you know, don't stop showing up for not just yourself, but for your friends because you can't just sit in the house and isolate yourself because then your mental state is gonna go downhill. You're just gonna be depressed. You're gonna be in your thoughts all the time and you're just gonna it's not healthy. You have to be around your friends, even if it's just going over to their house and sitting on the couch and watching a movie with them. You just have to continue to socialize as a person.
So true. Like it's easy to be like, I have to put everything into this and only this. But then what happens when you get at the end of that and you have nothing else?
Yep. And then you get to that stage and there's no one there with you. And there's no point after that. Who are you going to celebrate with? Yourself? That's boring.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think part of success is knowing you get to share with other people and be like, well, you supported me in this way, you helped me in this way. It's because I went through this with you or experienced this. And even when we don't win, like, I'm sure there's been times in your
Yeah.
journey where
Hmm.
you didn't place or didn't win, and like, you still got to have an amazing time with people who love you and who you love.
Yep, exactly. And every time you step on that stage, every time you come away and you don't place the way that you hope to place, it's still a learning experience and it's still something that you should take as um gratefully, I guess you could or should appreciate because then you can go back to the drawing board and say, oh, okay, now I see why. It's because I did this wrong, or I could do this better and I should do this instead. And then that's when you apply and you learn, and that's what makes the sport so fun.
Right. Like, honestly, I feel sometimes the best thing about this sport, not aside from the community, because honestly, that's been the most rewarding part, I think, is knowing that you always have a reason to improve because of this sport. You can bring your absolute best, and 1 second later, you already are thinking about how you can improve for next time.
Yep, exactly.
So I think that's like one of the most gratifying things. It's like we are always improving, and even when we bring our best, there's always better. And you've proven that to yourself too. I mean, you had these ups and downs throughout your journey, but you really climbed the ranks, especially, in this last season that you had. You got up there, you were able to get through the first call outs, you're able to go win your pro card. So what was your feedback after winning your pro card, and what are you doing now?
So we did not get feedback after nationals. Yeah, so I did not get the feedback. I just know, and with Ash's eyes, she just knows. I just need more glutes. That was my feedback all last season is more pop off the back. And then those pro girls like Ashlyn and Lauralee and Maureen and Jen, they got muscle. They are incredible. And I need to look like that. So that's what I was just like, I just need to grow all over. I didn't want to be, I know that there's girls that made mistakes and they just said that, they didn't really tell that they were told not to really change anything. And then when they got on stage, on a pro stage, they were told that they needed to grow once they got compared to those people. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to give this off season my all. I'm going to grow. And if when I get on that, when I do my pro debut, I want them to tell me, okay, you have too much muscle.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? That's like,
right.
give me that feedback any day.
Yes. So if that's my feedback and my rookie debut, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, that would be so cool. So how are you folks? Because you've made, like, when you look at your photos over the years, you've made so much progress. So what are some of the things that you do in the gym and outside of the gym to support growing?
Um, it's literally the same thing that I do when I'm in prep. It's getting my meals in, protein, water, doing my supplements, my making sure I'm doing all that properly and training. Making sure my training is consistent. I still follow, a split, and my split that I have now, it hasn't changed since March. I'm doing glutes twice a week. I'm doing hitting shoulders um twice a week, two shoulders, and then back once. And I'm just making sure I'm improving in my lifts every session. Making sure I'm increasing my weights. And some weeks, yeah, I don't hit those markers. I don't hit the weight I was supposed to hit, but that happens. And then the next week it's like, oh my gosh, I'm strong again, you know?
Yes.
So it's just being consistent. Consistency has been key. And that's where I find when I'm consistent in my routine and in my life, that's where I'm growing and I'm thriving.
Couldn't agree more. Like that, a lot of people I think look at what's being done, specifics, but not the energy behind what's being done. It's like it's not the meal plan, it's not the macros, it's not the training. Yes, these variables matter, but it's really like the tenacity, the consistency, the dedication, the structure that's ultimately
Mhm.
creating the result from those things you're executing on.
Yeah, exactly. If I didn't have my structure, which I have, like, I'm not perfect. I went on vacation and I enjoyed my time with my mom on Turks and Caicos vacation, and it was amazing. And then I came back and I was like, all right, I got to get back to it. And
Yeah.
that's when I felt amazing when I got back into it. But you need that mental reset too. Your body needs it and your mind needs it. And from then it was just kind of like it was go time for me to really zone in on my off season, make sure I was capitalizing on everything because I'm not doing my pro debut until 2024. But I do plan on starting prep probably right after Thanksgiving. I'll start prep.
Kind of get an early start so you can see how you're looking. And as you said, you struggle with filling out. So I imagine like starting that fill out maybe earlier or strategically.
Yeah, we'll see what happens because I do have the weight to get off first. And then once my body, gets to a point, my metabolism is through the roof and I just have to eat, which is my
That's a
favorite.
good feeling. Yeah, when you can start reversing into your shows and feeding in, it's like I'm doing it right. All that struggle was worth it.
Yeah, that it's the best feeling when you get to that point, and I love it because I have a huge appetite.
Yeah, honestly, like it's a great feeling as an athlete too. You're like, okay, like all that work paid off. And then it helps you going into your improvement season, I think, because you're already starting like fairly eating fairly well. So your improvement season macros aren't like this slow climb. It's like you've been reversing already.
Yep, exactly. And then, reversing's hard no matter what. But when you're not at starting at 50 grams of carbs and 10 fat, or you know what I mean, anyone, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
on 10 fat to begin
Yeah.
with, but like then it makes it a lot easier when you're not that
Absolutely.
low.
So true. Like, I don't know how we did it, but we were at like 30 grams of carbs some days in my prep. And then by the end of it, like getting onto North Americans, I was at like 200, 220. Like, I didn't eat that much for like months, but then we needed it. And my body was just like a furnace. And that felt so good. Now, granted, our reverse didn't even start at 220 because we needed to kind of reset, but
Right,
it was like,
exactly.
yeah, it was so nice. I'm like, oh gosh, I thought I was gonna be, because I told my coach, I was like, I want to be able to go on vacation with my family and not only have like 50 grams of carbs on my intake. Like that would be hard because you're walking all the time, you're exploring, you're doing things. Like that's difficult. Food aside, like I can eat my own food. It's like the activity level is higher on top of the training. So
Yeah.
it's like if we can reverse into these shows, I know I'll be in such a solid spot for all my travel coming up. And we did exactly that. And I think too, then like for someone like you who does like to travel and do these experiences with your mom, like you have the insight from the trekking and seeing your body change. Like you can enjoy a week off and know that you're still making mindful choices and you're going to come back and live your lifestyle with even more gusto because you took that time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I do take that time off. Like I try to make sure that, at least twice a year, especially when I'm in these long improvement seasons, is that I do take, a break from the gym, give my body the rest and reset that it needs. And it just, I knew going into before that vacation that I needed that whole week off to not step into the gym because I was mentally exhausted. My body was exhausted. Like you can feel it. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you get sick of, oh, I have to track my food. Oh, I have to weigh this meal out. Oh, I'm getting sick of this. And then, so when you go and take that break, that week break, if it's not, not even if it's like on vacation, even if it's just not weighing out your food and, not going to the gym that week, and that's a huge reset for you as well. So when I went on my vacation with my mom, I knew I just wanted to enjoy that time with her and really soak in being on vacation.
Yeah, I love that. I think sometimes competitors need to hear that from a pro like yourself to know like it's okay. Like you have permission to take a break. Like think about the fact that you've been going to the gym and weighing your food every day for like years. You don't think like you can take a couple days to just chill for a sec. And I think it gives you that extra boost. Like when you come back, like you get even after a long improvement season, when you start to have that fire, like, oh, I want to be in the gym every day, but you're only going 4 days a week, maybe, or oh, I want to be in there twice a day, like something starts coming back up because you've resisted the burnout because you addressed it early on.
Yep, exactly. Like right now, that's where I am. Like I took that break in July for a week, and it might have been even longer than a week because I ended up going. Our vacation was like 4 or 5 days. And then I came home back to Tampa for one night and I hopped on a flight the next afternoon to go to Cleveland to visit my dad and my dad's side of the family. So I thoroughly enjoyed time with them as well. And then when I got back here, I was headstrong, like I'm ready. Like get me in the gym. Ash, tell me what to do. Like, let's go.
That's
And
awesome.
and now I'm like recuperating that reward because my lifts have been so strong the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm just really, really enjoying my training right now.
I love that. How has becoming close with Ashlyn through this process affected like your coaching relationship with her?
So Ash and I actually were friends before she started coaching me. So the way that it came about was she was like it was like right after she had gone under Jamie and was coaching with Fit Body Fusion. And she was like, you should let me coach you. Like, I'm not like, she didn't do it as in like, oh my gosh, like your coach doesn't know what he's doing. You need to coach with me. It
Right.
was more like I would just really enjoy coaching you. And I know that you would excel underneath me and my guidance. And I was like, like I'm really happy where I am. Like I'm okay. And then my coach at the time had some personal things come up and he had to take a step back from coaching completely. And so it was just kind of like, okay, well, the only other person that I can think of and that I would enjoy being coached by was Ashlyn. And she had already approached me a year before, and I was like, let's do it. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I want to be like her. I want to look like her. So why wouldn't I have her coach me? And she knows these stages, she knows the judges, and I needed that in my corner. That was something that I didn't have before with my other coach because he was just he wasn't competing anymore, and he was a bodybuilder, and bodybuilder and bikini, it's two different worlds.
Yeah.
um it's the same world, but it's a little different.
Right.
And I needed someone with the inside to know, okay, you need to get in front of this judge, and we need to keep getting in front of this judge, or okay, let's go in front of this judge because this is the look that they prefer compared to the other one that didn't really like your look as much. So that's what I was excited about, being coached under her, and then also learning new ways of how she coaches compared to how I was coached before. And that's just a fun journey in itself. And we were friends before that, and our relationship only got stronger. And I'm it's really easy for me to separate the two. And I think she's really good at it as well. That when I'm not just talking to her about coaching all the time, it's not where I'm texting her all the time and it's about coaching. I'm When I have my check-ins, that's when I talk to her about coaching. We keep that separate via app. And then yeah, if I have a question about coaching, like, yeah, I'll text her. Or if I have a question about my program or my training or how I'm feeling about my nutrition, yeah, I'll text her. But usually we're really good at keeping it separate. And I think that's what's important.
I like that. Like you're able to compartmentalize and separate coaching from friendship.
Yeah. And then when she needs me as her support system or vice versa, we're really good at that.
That's so awesome. I really like that for you because she was there for you through a difficult time. She brought you to where you wanted to be as a competitor, and you guys are working now on achieving your next goal. So you want to make your debut in 2024. What
Mhm.
are your long-term goals for competing as a pro?
So I want to make my debut, and I want to, obviously, we all want to place that top five, but top 10 realistically. And then I honestly don't want to stop. I want to go to the Olympia next year. That's my goal.
Yes, I love
So
hearing people declare it. I'm like, let's go.
I want to win a pro show, and I want to go to the Olympia in 2024.
Yes, that's awesome. I think it's so important to be able to vocalize it, to say it, and be like, that's what I'm working towards, and I know I can do it.
Yeah, you're 110% right. Like, it is what I'm working for, and it is what I want, and I'm gonna go after it, and I'm gonna go get it.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch your journey. And before I kind of move into the wrap up of this episode, I like to end by asking for your best advice, as you probably know. So, what's your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
The best advice that I could give for someone who's never competed before and they would like to is save money. The sport is expensive. Do your research. Talk to athletes that are under currently coaches that you like, and athletes that were under that coach and left. Why did they leave? Why are athletes staying? So really do your research on the coach and on finances. And then for athletes chasing after the pro card, don't stop. Don't stop. Just you got to keep showing up. You set a goal for yourself, and you don't hit that goal, go to the next one. If the feedback is drastic where you really really need to grow, then listen. But if it's just this little twerk, it could be like anything between carving up differently, like I had to do, or just a twerk and posing, and that's it, then keep going. Don't stop.
Love that advice. I really do. I think Like the more I go into my seasons and I've been in this for a while, I keep reminding myself like it is that long-term vision. And I know like I'm not in a rush anymore because I'm just like, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep doing this. I want to do it right, and I want to be really proud of, not that I wasn't proud last year, I was, but I just want to be even more proud, next time.
Yeah, exactly. And just know that you set that goal for yourself, and it is achievable. It may take time, like everyone says, the stage is always going to be there, but know that why not keep going when it's so close and so into reach. And then yeah, the next, let's say, I don't know where I'm going with this now.
No, it's
But just
great.
don't ever give up. Just no matter what outside things are going on, just know that you got to keep following your passion and just keep going.
I love that. Honestly, that's the encouragement that we need. And like you've emphasized that in your own journey and emulated that. So I would love for you to share how people can connect with you, maybe even work with you and just follow your journey.
Yeah, so I'm just huge on Instagram. So if anyone wants to reach out to me or follow me or chat ever, my Instagram is Casey Hill _ IFBB Pro.
Awesome. Well, I'll put that in the show notes page, you guys, as always, on celestial.fit/podcast. You can find not just the links, but also a full breakdown of this episode in a summary format, as well as a bulleted list of topics we covered and episode timestamps. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can click back to your favorite part, listen again, and you can also share it with your friends and teammates. And of course, it means so much to us when you share it or post about it and reach out to the athletes, letting them know you appreciated all their insights and what they shared and how it resonated. Because you guys, I get messages all the time from these women telling me how much it means to them. So definitely do so if you feel inspired. All these women are so open to it. Just as Casey said, you can find her on Instagram there. So really appreciate your time, Casey. Thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.